Hello everybody, this is Whiskey River here, and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be episode 6 in last week of Path of Titans. And last week I played a Torvvisaurus, Seratosaurus, Dominus, the CRex, and some OG-Rex. And so I've got some highlights from each of those experiences here to share with you guys. We'll start off with the Torvvisaurus. The Torvvisaurus is one of the sub-apex classes on apex killers that I don't see a whole lot of. You usually see people playing the other sub-apexes like the Zuchang, the Yang, the DB Acro, even the Aloe. I see a lot out there, but I don't see too many people on the PT Torvo. There are two Torvos. There's the JFD Torvo and the PT Torvo. I personally prefer the PT Torvo, but the JFD is also an option. And yeah, I don't see a whole lot of this, but it's a great dinosaur. It doesn't do bleed or anything, but it does a lot of damage. It does DPS. That's its whole forte. And when you play it in a team, you can use the splintering bite with the shatter point together. Each teammate uses one or the other, and then you hit one of your teammates hits them after you hit them. Like if you have the splintering bite, and the first bite primes the target, and then the second bite, if it's hitting a primed target, will do amplified damage. And it is a lot of amplified damage. The bite in itself does good damage, and then when it's amplified to a primed target, it's crazy how much damage it does. So when you're in a group, it's very good for taking out larger creatures like this PT Rex. I'm using the basic build where it's just the bite, then I'm using the splintering bite so I can prime the targets for my other two teammates. And I've got a headbutt, the claw attack. Right now I'm using the knockback tail, but you'll see later in the fight I swap it out to the armored tail because this Rex keeps getting little nips on my tail, and it does quite a bit of damage actually. So the armored tail is a really good choice because the knockback doesn't do a whole lot to the bigger creatures anyway. And then it's got a call which gives you some stamina back. It'll take a little bit of stamina, but it'll return you some stamina. So you can heal stall with these guys, but it's not like a bleeder. You want to basically try to DPS them as quickly as possible. Now in this situation, this Rex has got half of his body buried in that rock right there. He's totally abusing the meshing in this game, which is already bad enough, but now he's just, you can see him, he's literally got half of his body stuck in the rock. So we asked him nicely, like, hey, please don't mesh. And at first he was kind of rude and arguing about it and said something like, just deal with it. But as we continued to just press him, he finally is good about it and does the right thing, and he steps out. Meshing is already annoying in the game, and you know, we've got a lot of liberties on Apex Killers, on the server called Apex Killers, where there's not a whole lot of crazy rules about meshing. But, you know, putting half your body into a rock like that is definitely a rule break. And, you know, I think it's a good rule. But don't abuse it, you know, because if we keep abusing it like this, then what's going to happen is it's going to turn into just like the other servers where they don't let you even swipe a little tiny bit of your tail through a rock or something like that. So I think we should not take advantage of the, you know, generous rules that this server already has and try to play our best and not mesh. Especially don't put half your body in a rock, because it's just going to lead to, you know, a worse outcome for the whole community if you just keep abusing it. So I just respectfully ask the community, like, just, you know, it's basically cheating, so don't cheat. You know, don't be a cheater. Don't exploit the meshing mechanics in the game. Just try to have a good, solid fight. You're going to lose some fights, you know. There's not a lot the PT Rex is going to do against 3 good Torvos, but you could put up a good fight. You might get lucky and get a lucky hit. If somebody goes in, it's too low. The PT Rex does a lot of damage, so it can clip one of us and kill us and surprise us. So it's better to fight honorably and, you know, play by the rules and have a clean fight. And even if you lose, you can be proud that you fought well and, you know, you didn't cheat. It is smart, you know, to use the environment and, you know, backing up to a rock or a cliff or something like that's definitely what this PT Rex player should be doing, and is definitely what I would be doing. like kind of like that one up on top of the rock there that's fighting the concavenators. It's a great place to be, you know. So if you don't like your spot, don't mesh into half your body into it. Just relocate to a better spot, and that'll be a much better way to go. Torvo's headbutt's very useful. You saw how he headbutted him away there from the rock. It's also good if somebody gets onto a cliff and they're teetering on the edge of a cliff. You can knock them off, make them take fall damage, potentially kill them that way. It's a very useful tool on the Torvo, the headbutt. And then speaking about just you know, being courteous about the rules and stuff, and trying to play by the rules as much as possible, it kind of brings up a point of third partying. Third partying happens a lot on this server. It happens on every server, but I play on this server, and I've been noticing a lot lately. And what happens is, you know, it's typically somebody sees a target and they just go attack it, and then it turns out that that target was already in a fight, and then you see the argument ensue in global chat, and the player, the third party, typically says they didn't know and they didn't see, and it's a big argument, and then, you know, a player dies unnecessarily, has to get its growth back, a ticket gets created, the players, the third party, have that put a warning put on their record, and it goes against your reputation on the server, and you can eventually get banned if you keep doing it. And then, you know, you're also affecting your reputation with that particular person. I mean, it's a relatively small community, and people are going to remember if you third party them, and then especially if you're rude about it. So it's best to, you know, follow the rules and try to be courteous and kind to your other fellow players on this server. And the one thing that I think would, if people did one simple thing, it would eliminate a vast majority of the third party rule breaks, and that is just take 10 seconds. When you see a target you want to attack, just take 10 seconds. Before you attack it, take 10 seconds and look around. Ask yourself, is that player in combat? Look around, look in a bush. Maybe somebody's hiding, getting stamina in a bush. Maybe the Rex has got a trike cornered in the rock, you know, in the nook of the rock, or up on top of the rock, or, you know, maybe there's something pursuing it in the trees nearby that you didn't see at first, or if it's near the water, maybe there's a croc that he's fighting and the croc's hiding under the water. Things like that. If you just take 10 seconds to observe your surroundings and observe the target that you're about to attack, it'll eliminate 9 out of 10 third parties. I guarantee it. And it only takes 10 seconds. And that 10 seconds will save you all that nonsense with rule break tickets and arguments. And I mean, it'll save a half hour of your time and an annoying, you know, issue that you have to deal with the staff and a ticket, and it'll put a mark on your record. I mean, if 10 seconds is all you need to avoid all that, in my opinion, it's well worth it. I had an example just last week. I mean, we all have make mistakes. I've accidentally third partied. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but even when you're careful, like I try to be extra careful, I still third party sometimes by mistake. Like just yesterday, we were hunting as Rexes, and we saw this bars coming up out of the river, and there was a big fight going on near the river, but it was Spinos and other Rexes. And we see this bars come up out of the water, and it's walking up along the trail, and so we, you know, kind of followed it for a little bit, activated our terrible roar, and then attacked it, and it died in like 1 bite or 2 bites. And then I knew right away, oh no, like why was it low? And then I look, and it was super thick fog, and this DB Giga emerges up out of the river and comes out of the fog, and that's what it was fighting. So we're like, oh no, and we stopped and, you know, handled it. I self-reported on a ticket, and I said, guys, I'm sorry, here's my perspective, you know, I didn't see that, you know, and you can see in the video, like it was super thick fog, and I didn't know it at the time, but it turns out that the bars was using its tail to keep the DB Giga under the water, and that's why we didn't see it, in addition to the fog, in addition to the big fight that was going on. So even when you are careful, it's going to happen. So if you're not careful, it's really going to happen a whole lot more. And so even if you just take those 10 seconds, you might have an incident like that, but most of the time if you take that 10 seconds, you will avoid the third party. I had an actual incident, a couple of weeks back where I was walking in Grand Plains and there was a Dominus just laying down in the middle of GP. And I was a Rex and I wanted to kill it, and I was hungry. But I'm like, you know what? Why would a Dominus be laying down in the middle of GP? It must have a body. It must, maybe it's getting stamina back and it's fighting another dragon that could be flying in the air. Like, there's got to be a reason that that thing is laying down in the middle of GP. It can't be doing it, for the good of his health. Now, maybe there's a chance that it's just not the brightest of players and it's doing that, but I'm going to double check first. And so that's what I did. I walked around, I circled it. I didn't see anything. I didn't see a fight, but I thought, it was kind of laying in a bunch of bushes. So I thought it could have a small animal or something, that it was laying on. So I just 3-called it, and then it woke up and it 3-called back, and we fought. And it turns out it was George, the owner of the server. And I was like, man, am I glad, and he did have a body, and it had despawned in the time that I was investigating and kind of trying to figure out what was going on. And so I was really glad that I didn't just haul off and attack him. Because, and even if it was any player, but let alone it was the owner of the server. So that's what I tell my son and I tell my friends, like, anytime you see a player like that, always assume it's George. Assume it's a staff member. Do you really want to take a chance of rule breaking against the owner of the server, And if you do that and you're extra careful, it'll really, really help against rule breaks, and it'll just make it a better, more fun, community for us all to play together on. And that's what I'd request. 10 seconds is all, guys. I just request that, and I think you'll find that it'll make your gameplay better. You'll have less tickets. You'll be dealing with the staff a lot less. You'll, not be getting a bad reputation with other players, and it doesn't take a lot, really. It just takes 10 seconds. And we see this every day. I mean, every day you see an argument in global. It's multiple times a day, and there's always a bunch of excuses. We didn't see, we didn't know, this and that. And it's like, all they had to do was take 10 seconds. So this is the Cerato gameplay we had, and this is against a Spino. You can see it almost killed my teammate Rampage right there with that fist pound that it does. That's its most deadly attack that we've really got to watch out for. We're trying to bait that so that he activates it, and then we can have a window to go in. And you've also got to watch out for that tail on a Spino. Since the TLC, they've updated it. That tail actually does high damage, so you got to watch out for that as well. And if you can bait those attacks out and hit them in between, just like any fight, you can get the win. But the thing about these little Ceratos is that they pack a punch. They're a little package, but I'll tell you what, they pack a huge punch. The all-for-one ability, in addition to an ability that they have on their sensor, their hide, that gives them another 25% extra damage, and you lose 12.5% overall health. But the trade-off for the extra 25% damage, when you're stacking that with the all-for-one with 4 people, you've got 32% damage plus the 25% damage. So you're talking 57% extra damage, almost 60% there. And then if there's a corpse nearby, that reduces the armor of the opponent that you're fighting, and so they're going to take even more damage. So you're doing 60%, 65% more damage to enemies when you have all those abilities procced. And you notice it when I'm on my Rex and I get attacked by Ceratos. I'll tell you what, the one charge bite on a Cerato feels like getting hit by a Rex. It's crazy, and I'm told that it doesn't ignore combat weight or anything like that, but it sure seems like it does, because they hit hard for how small they are. And on Apex Killers, George has these adjusted where they don't do bone break with that charge bite, but they do high damage. And it is a pretty cool trade-off, I'd say. And so these are very fun to play when you're with a group of friends. He got the best of us here in the beginning. A lot of us, you can see, are over there healing, and these don't do any kind of bleed or anything like that, so the heal stalling isn't as effective on these as it is like on an aloe or something that does bleed. But Little Whiskey and I still have enough health to, if we're careful, we can get in and get a few more of these charge bites on him before he gets too close to the water. That's what we've got to prevent, because he is making his way down to the water, and if he gets there, he's going to get away. So there's the bait. I was able to bait it out. Little Whiskey could have gotten a hit in there, but he just didn't see it, so we missed that one. But that's kind of the idea. One runs in, baits an attack, the other one can hit him with a charge bite. And the best way to do it is for both of you to charge up a bite together so that they don't know which one is going to hit. And then once you get the bait, then the other one hits. He's starting to get low. He's really now making his way quickly to the water, so we're going to have to pick up the pressure here, because we can't be stalling out as much as we used to, because he's just getting way too close to the river. So if we don't keep the pressure on, he's just going to swim away. So we've got to take the risk here and put the pressure on and either win it or lose it right away, because if not, he's just going to swim off. You can see those scars. That means he's within two charge bites or so when you see him scarring that badly. Yeah, there's one, and then I think Little Whiskey ends up finishing him off here. Yep, right there. That was a fun fight. Little Ceratos are great if you have a group of friends to play with. Of course, I played the CRex. This is before they did the, George just did a nerf last week. It's slower now. Its trot speed's slower and its turn is slower. And that is a big deal. People don't think it's a big deal, but it is a big deal. You just saw me dodge that stomp, for example. The DB Giga is a huge threat to a CRex. And the only reason I win any fights with the DB Gigas is if I can dodge that stomp. But with the slower turn radius, it's going to make it even harder to dodge the stomp. And the other thing is the CRex and the OG Rexes with terrible roar. Any of those things are a huge threat to the CRex, and it needs its turn, especially against the CRex. I used to beat CRex with 20% health left, and it was because I could turn on them and hit them when they were hitting me. And as long as you can trade bites on them, then you can win. But now you can't. Now I have to just retreat to the water, even with a single carc. And that's an apex, which is a whole tier lower, you know, a weight class lower than you. And you can't even deal with one anymore because the turn is so bad. Unless you already have an environmental advantage, you're going to be in big trouble. And you can't heal. I used to be able to just swim and wait their calls out and stuff like that, but you can't anymore because now they have a healing hide, and they can heal to full while you're stalling out. So it is still, you know, a really good solo playable, and it's very survivable because it's semi-aquatic, and it has a lot of really good abilities. You can use it to do the with like the shoe fly to run and knock people into the river and then kill them that way. So you can ambush with it, you can catch people unaware, and still have a bit of a good time with it. But it's not going to be as the powerhouse that it used to be with any of the other pairs of apexes out there, or even now the solo apexes are going to be really, really hard unless you already have an environmental advantage. So the last few times I played it, I found myself basically retreating from almost every good fight, any carc fight, giga fight, rex fight, anything like that, because of the turn. I was just having to use the water and get in the water and swim away, and I couldn't really finish any fights. So I'm gonna have to keep practicing with it and working with it, but it's definitely a lot tougher now than it used to be on the CRex. So I've kind of migrated over to the OG Rex a little more. I've been having more success actually on that as a solo than on the CRex, because at least it has fracture, and that you can use that to immobilize your enemies. Being big and slow, you need something to slow them down. This is one of my last really good fights on the CRex against two Dominus, and these are good Dominus players too. But I thought this was a really good fight, a good example of using your environment, using all the abilities that the CRex has at your disposal to try to get a win. And this is kind of it's a good fight because they have the air, they can fly in the air, and I've got the water, I can swim in the water. So we each have our unique advantage in the fight, and whoever can use their environmental advantage best is going to win the fight, and that's what I do here. I get this one trapped in the water and gets me the win. So as I said, I kind of moved to playing the OG Rex a little bit more. The OG Rex is still just such a beast. It's a sub Titan class, and you can run in pairs with these, so it's really cool. A pair of these is very hard to beat. A good set of DB Giga players or Kark players can beat them. Tyranno Titans even, but it's a fight, man. It's a really good fight. But I love ambushing with it still. You can brawl with it, you can ambush with it. We were tracking these Edmonts that had their nest here, and we laid this ambush on them. You can see how much damage, when you have Terror activated, the damage is insane on these things. And even when you don't, it's pretty good. But they are big and slow, and they have a very slow turning radius, so you've got to be careful. The smaller, faster stuff will beat you on the OG Rex. It's not super easy, even though it does a lot of damage. The one saving grace it has is the fracture bite. If you can land that, it's hard to land against good players, but if you can land it, it can usually get you the win. And then to finish it out, had a little bit of Dominus gameplay. We were holding down GP with a couple of Dominus for a little while, and ran into these other two here that we went ahead and fought them and tried to fight for the rights of the territory of GP. So that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. That was episode 6. Stay tuned. I'm making episode 7 right now, and that will be here in the next few days. So as always, guys, I hope to see you out there in Gondwa. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.